welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Kaya master Anne-Marie Young. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Our friend Louis D'Souza cannot join us today, but he'll be back probably next week, I would think, because he likes to jump in wherever he can, as usual, to share all of his Abraham Hicks knowledge, because he's really knowledgeable about that and a whole bunch of stuff. But Anne-Marie is here, and we were just chatting, Anne-Marie, before we got started about how life keeps going on, right? I mean, you have the ups, you have the downs. As usual, it's all about how you're going to respond to it. But lately, for both of us, life's been on an upswing.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been exciting, and I'm finding it so much nicer at the moment because I've calmed things down. I was doing so much, it was crazy busy, so I've slowed down and it's been so much nicer and so much easier to manage, and you just appreciate more because you can take it in, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. Because when you're on that upswing, well, first of all, everything's easier to manage when you're on the upswing, right? The downswing, that's the harder one, but the upswing, boy, those are like, grease skids. It's so easy.
It's like flying on a cloud.
It is. It really is. And especially for me, after what I've been going through, it's nice to be going up instead of down. That's a good thing. So
that's what we like to hear.
That's it. Yeah. Something else we like to hear. We have a guest joining us today. His name's Nicky Billou. I didn't even ask your name pronunciation before we got going, Nicky. Is it Billou or Billou? I'm guessing one of those two.
Billou.
Blue. Okay. All right. So 1 out of 2, not too bad. But Nicky hails from Canada, although he's originally from the Middle East. And this guy is all about helping people who are in business to massively increase their companies, massively increase the size of what they're doing, their operations, their success levels. And so he's going to be sharing some of the secrets that he has amassed over the years along the way. But first of all, Nicky, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Walt, I'm blessed and grateful. Thanks to you and Anne-Marie for having me on the show.
Oh, thank you for coming to join us.
Yeah, this is good stuff. I love it. So give us the potted biography, 2 minutes on where Nicky comes from and how he got to where he is.
Absolutely. So as you said, I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When I was just 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran, and the benign dictatorship of the Shah was replaced by the absolute tyranny of the mullahs. And my late father, God rest his soul, could see the writing on the wall. This was not going to be a great place for him to raise his Christian family anymore. So what he did was he made a plan, and he got us out of Iran, and we eventually settled where I now live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And at the time, I was devastated, but looking back now, thank God for my dad and his foresight and his prescience, because he changed the trajectory of my life and the legacy of our whole family. And I have become such a champion for freedom, free expression, and free enterprise as a result of this, because I grew up in tyranny. And I'm so grateful to live in freedom. Now, I know there's some people living in the West these days that say crazy things like, oh my God, this is the most oppressive, racist, sexist place on earth. Nobody's pretending this is anybody's definition of heaven or perfection, because it's not. There's lots of problems and issues with the West, but are you freaking kidding me? This is the most tolerant, the most open, wonderful series of societies in the history of the world. And anybody who doesn't see that is either ignorant or malicious. If they're ignorant, we're going to try to help them. If they're malicious, we're going to stand up strong against them and fight back against these folks, because we should be grateful that we get to live in a society where you're free. Now, give you a point. In Iran, 6 months ago, a young woman, 22 years old, by the name of Mahsa Amini, was beaten to death for the crime of walking outside while her hair was showing from underneath her head cover. Right. They beat her to death for this, because in Iran, you must cover all your hair and all your skin outdoors if you're a woman. You think about that. And you think about how great we have it here, how lucky we are to live here. And for that reason, I'm a champion of freedom. Now, my father was also a champion of freedom. God rest his soul. He was a man who was an uplifter of human beings. If you knew Dad and you were looking for work, Dad would make some phone calls and help you find a job. If you were trying to start a business, he would sit down with you, he'd meet with you, and he would help get it going for you. If you were trying to buy a house or a car or an apartment and you didn't quite have enough money, he would top you up so you could buy that car, that house, or that apartment. And you would be listening to this and you'd be going, is he kidding me? That can't be real. People don't do that. Well, actually, people do. Certainly my dad did. And actually, he was an amazing man who did that. And why would he do that? Well, that's a great question. First of all, he did it because he was a Christian. He felt that he'd been blessed by God. And as a result of him being blessed by God, he had a duty and an obligation to share those blessings with others. But secondly, and this is very, very, very important, he did it because he could. He had the financial wherewithal to be able to help other human beings. I wanted to be like Dad, so I eventually got into the entrepreneurial field and in the helping professions. And what I noticed was there was a lot of good people out there, amazing people. But when it came to, doing what they did, they were great at it. But when it came to business, they sucked, especially when it came to sales. They couldn't like get past being afraid of, I don't want to be seen as pushy or salesy or reeking of commission breath. So they don't go after sales that they should be going after, which means their business suffers. And the person they should be helping doesn't get their help. And then some charlatan marketer swoops in, gets the business, doesn't deliver, and the sum total of goodness in the world goes down for everybody. It goes down for the good business person because they don't make the money they should make. They don't make the difference they should make. It goes down for the potential client because they don't get helped by a good, honest person. And in fact, they get ripped off by a charlatan. It even goes down for the charlatan because they're building up a lot of, negativity, negative karma, sinning, if you will, and having that come back their way. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, I can help these folks. I have a background in business. I understand business. I understand selling. And selling is an act of love, in my opinion, but a lot of people couldn't see it that way. So I thought, let's reframe it. Let's not call it selling. Let's call it serving. Nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to be served by a good, caring human being, an advocate that has their best interest at heart. And my father used to say, life is about people. It's not about business. It's not about money. And even business isn't about, business or money. It's about people. After all, what do you do in business? You solve problems for people for profit. PPP, problems for people for profit. So I teach people that. And as a result of teaching people to take the attention off themselves and put the attention on the client and the person they're supposed to be helping, helped a lot of people double, triple, quadruple the amount of money that they make and feel better while they're doing it.
That's terrific. I really like that a lot. I like that a whole lot. As an entrepreneur, I like that. And I also like it as a podcaster and an advocate of helping people. That just resonates in every way for me. I do want to add one thing to what you said, because you mentioned how someone who doesn't really appreciate how good we have it here is either malicious or ignorant. There is a third possibility that comes to my mind. They're afraid. And maybe that just kind of covers the whole thing. But people allow fear to just kind of govern all kinds of things and to create all kinds of crazy situations. So I always throw fear in there because it's pretty universal. It's all over the place. But I love what you're doing. I love what you're saying. I can think of times in my own life when I probably could have had a coach like that and say, yeah, that would have been really helpful to have that person talking to me. And I suspect that while most people have not been entrepreneurial, they've thought about it. I think a lot of people think about it. They don't go anywhere with it. They don't try it, but they think about it. And then they get, again, the fear comes in. They start getting scared away by the exact things that you're talking about. The sales rather than the serving. I thought that was a great transposition that you made there just by changing sales into serving. Because you're right. It's all about people. Life is about people. That's really great. 100%. So give us like a, I don't know, some success stories, or tell us some tales about how this has played out either with yourself or with clients.
Well, I've got 2 success stories that I can share with you right now of people I've worked with.
Okay.
So one of them was a young man named Danny, and he was a perfect example of somebody who was good at what they did but sucked at business. And what was the problem with Danny? Well, he was a fitness trainer, but he was trying to be all things to all people. He was not then being nothing to nobody. And one of the things you need to do is you need to have a clear message in business that helps you stand out so people can understand why they need your help and not someone else's, why they should work with you and not someone else. So when I met Danny, I said, Danny, tell me about what you do. He said, well, I'm a trainer. I can help anybody do anything.
You really said that?
Wow.
Wow.
I'm like, Danny, that's not going to work. He says, no, but I really can. I really can help anybody do anything, lose weight, get fit, win competitions. I said, Danny, does that mean you can help anybody with a wallet and a pulse? And he was like, oh, man, that's funny. And I said, yeah, it is, buddy. What do you mean? He said, well, I guess so when you put it that way. I said, no, you can't do that. So he said, okay, let me then narrow my focus. He said, doctors. Okay, why doctors? My dad's a doctor. And I love my dad. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. And doctors make a lot of money. No, that's not so wonderful as a message.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. No, I'm doing it.
Oh,
So I said, Danny, we need to change your message. And he said, okay. And your target market. He said, okay. Cardiologists. Okay, right. They make more money than doctors. No, Danny, that's not going to work, buddy. No. Oh, my God. No, I'm doing it. Didn't work. Through some serendipity, he started to work with a man who was a Paralympian athlete with a missing leg. Childhood accident. They hit it off. It worked out great. And this fellow actually went out and won some medals at a competition. So it was great.
Wow.
Danny comes to me all sheepish going, okay, Nicky, I think I've been an idiot. And I'm like, yes, you have.
You don't hold back anyway.
Why should I hold back?
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, listen, man, we live in a weak, soft time. I don't like this time for that reason. There's a lot of good things about this time, but softness and weakness are not strengths. You know, Jordan Peterson said, a nice man is not a good man. A good man is a dangerous man who has it under voluntary control. And I think he has it exactly right. That is exactly correct. So Danny comes to me and he said, I've been going after the money, haven't I? I go, yes, you have. You haven't been trying to help people. You've been trying to help yourself. And God doesn't like that. You know, people don't like that. They can sense that. And he said, okay, yes, you're right. He said, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working with people with missing limbs. I know how to help them. And I said, Danny, that's actually quite brilliant. You do that. In 6 short weeks, Danny went from having 7 clients, making $1,200 a month as a fitness trainer. Multiply that by 12 months. That's $14,400. He went from that princely sum to getting 400 new clients in 6 weeks. And $100,000 a month in income. Not a year, a month. A run rate of $1.2 million.
Wow.
$1.2 million.
And I'll bet you he loved it even more.
By not going after the money.
Yeah.
By going after being of service. Put yourself in the shoes of an individual with a missing limb. That person, he or she probably does not feel great that he doesn't have all his limbs. She probably doesn't feel like she can do everything someone with all their limbs can do, physically speaking. And Danny's message was, hey, I'm going to help you get strong. And you're going to get that you can do anything anybody else can do because you're a warrior and a badass. And that message landed. You know, landed.
Yeah.
Like Kerry
hard to
Strug
see
in
why.
1984 Olympics, landing
remember
her
that.
jump with that broken leg.
I
That's
remember
what it
that.
was like.
Yeah.
And that's how come Danny went from being this broke-ass young man, good fellow, to being a very successful businessman. And that's the power of getting your message straight. coming from the heart, serving people, but not trying to go after the money, but having a message that really, really is dialed in and appeals to a group of people that badly need that message, because that message salves their soul.
And it's a message that has to work both directions, doesn't it? I mean, clearly the message needs to resonate with the people that you want to serve, but it has to resonate with you too. Otherwise, you're just freaking yourself out.
Well, yeah, you know, in my world, I don't work with charlatans. So if I get that vibe with somebody, I won't do it.
Okay. All right. So you said there's a second story. What's the other one?
So there's this lovely woman. She was a doctor of natural medicine, and she was successful. She made 6 figures a year, but her father was dying of an aggressive form of cancer. And she really wanted to honor him. And he was a successful entrepreneur. And the way she wanted to honor him was by creating a business and dedicating it to him. And she wanted the business to be strong and powerful. And she, at the time, was working in someone else's clinic. So she came to us. Like Danny, she didn't have much of a dialed in message. She didn't have a target market. She was ready to work with anybody. So we helped her narrow her focus to professional women over the age of 40 who were successful, who had built a great career for themselves, but as women didn't feel sexy or beautiful or desirable anymore and hated it. And so her message was, I'm going to help you get your sexy back, girl. And so as a result, she was able to sign up a lot of people. But something happened. She was undercharging. She was not valuing what she did. She was selling it based on the marketplace. And I said, no, you need to value yourself based on the value of the solution to the problem you solve. So we helped her charge appropriately in that fashion. And as a result, boy, oh boy, did her business take off. And she went from 6 figures a year to a run rate of 7 figures a year. Now, it took her 2-3 years to get all that done. But getting her message dialed in and then charging what she's worth was important. Now, here's the funny thing. When she charged people what she should have charged them in the first place, they actually got better results.
Yeah.
Because that's law of expectancy. People expect more from what they pay more for. Okay. They just expect more for what they pay more for. And I'll give you a beautiful example of this. Just give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
So this is a notebook, right? It's my journal. I wrote in it. Now this notebook cost me $3. It's a great notebook. Now this too is a notebook. This notebook is a Mont Blanc. It's a lovely piece of felt. The signature of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is on the cover.
Ooh.
The pages have silver leaf on them. You know, on every page, there's the Mont Blanc watermark, and there's Mont Blanc at the bottom. This costs more than $3. I use both notebooks. The first notebook, I don't expect a ton from that notebook, but it was a notebook. It did the job. The second notebook, man, when I open it up and I write in it, I feel like $1 million. Expect more from it. If you're a business coach and you have a client and you're helping them grow their business from $1 million to $10 million, and they're like, Walt, you're great. Let's do it. What do you charge? And you say $50. They're going to go, what? You're going to help me grow my business by 9 million. You're going to charge me $50. Yeah, they're not going to believe you that you know what you're doing. Now, if you said, I'm going to charge you $500,000, they might go, whoa, that's a price. But they'll trust that you know what you're doing. and you'll have leverage over them that they'll do what they need to do to get to that level. Now, 500,000 is a bit of an extreme example. Well, let's say it was
It is.
100,000. It was $100,000. They'll pay you the 100,000 to go from $1 million to 10 million if they trust you that you can get them there.
Right.
And why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, as long as they believe that you're going to help them get there, there's no reason not to.
If you undercharge, you're hurting your client because they won't get the full value of your solution. Now, if you overcharge, you're a gouger, and that's not good. You need to charge appropriately based on the value of the solution you provide. So don't undercharge, don't overcharge. Does that mean you can't help people who have no money? No, of course you can. You can choose to give away your service for free to some people. But in general, your business has got to be one where you value your services and what you offer. That way the world will value them too, and they'll get the result they're looking for. If you don't get what you should get, you won't give what you should give.
There's another factor I found when it comes to appropriately charging. That is, if you charge too low on a regular basis, you get worse quality customers.
You do.
Better customers charge more, or pay more rather. The ones who expect to pay less they're the ones that eat up 90% of your time on ridiculous stuff that you shouldn't have to spend any time on. And when you charge properly, they go away, which is a really nice thing. It makes life so much easier. That's what I found anyway.
Brother, you're bang on. Bang on.
Yeah. Now, I do have a question for you. This is something that I have still never figured out a good solution to, and I'm curious to know what your take is going to be on it. My ex-wife has for years run a gardening service and maintenance business because she loves gardening. But she grew over time to hate the business, and it actually got to the point where she hated gardening because of it. She did not like the day-to-day of running a business. And so I'm wondering, how do you help somebody who they love the thing itself, but they don't like running the business side of it?
Well, if that's true, they shouldn't be a business owner. They should just do the thing and work for somebody who is a business owner. Because you've got to be willing to be a business owner if you're going to be a business owner. You've got to be willing to take all that on. There's no two ways about it. But there's a big difference between being a technician and a business owner. And I think being a business owner is far more rewarding, right? Because as a business owner, you get to create something that has intrinsic value and that you can exit from for lotto-like figures, you know, and that's powerful.
I personally agree with you, and it was something that haunted me through particularly the later years of the relationship, because I wanted her to have that joy back. I ended up running the business for her in the last years, and because I could, and I don't know. I just kept thinking there's got to be some way to help her to appreciate that side. But maybe you're right. Maybe there's not a way to do that. Maybe she just needs to be, like you say, the technician, not being the person who runs the business.
Maybe she brings on a partner who can run the business, and she does that. I mean, you don't need to run a business if you don't want to. You don't have to be an operator of the business, but you better have a partner who's willing to do that.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. Absolutely true. So, now, Anne-Marie, you have toyed with the idea of going into business. Have you actually gone into business yet? I'm not sure if you have.
No, I haven't gone into business. Things have just kind of changed in my life a bit, so
Okay.
I've had to kind of step back and put family first for a couple of years, which I'm absolutely loving. So I'm not upset about that. But what I'm loving from these stories is that you are taking people back to their passion of why they're doing it. And I think you touched on that well. I bet they start once they've focused and remember why they're doing it, who they're doing it for, and get that clarity that they, like you said, they enjoy it a lot more.
That's right. Yep, that's big. Now, when you were considering starting something, I imagine from what you're saying that it sounds like at some future point you're probably going to get back to it. Did any of the things that Nicky talked about earlier on there, did they resonate with you in terms of what you were thinking about as you were toying with the idea?
Yeah, and I think what Nicky's just said is the thing I didn't like is going out getting sales and having to start like thinking about that. And it was all social media. I don't like social media. It was all very uncomfortable, just wasn't an authentic way for me to do it. So again, it was is that what I should be doing? Because actually what I wanted to do, I do here and I do in voluntary work. And it was kind of, is this actually what I want to do? So it was a bit of an eye opener.
Do you need to work?
I work, yeah, I've still got a job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you need to? I mean, if you don't work, are the bills getting paid? Do you have savings? Does your family take care of you, or do you need to work?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, then you got to do something that works well for what you want to do in the world. And then you got to do something that also is going to bring in the requisite money that you need. I think there's this kind of kumbaya view of business these days. You should just do what you're passionate about and you should just abandon everything else. Well, in the real world, that doesn't work so good because some of the things you're passionate about, no one's willing to pay you for. And people need to do things that are financially lucrative. Otherwise, you're not in business. A business has to have clients who are willing to pay to have their problem solved. Otherwise, it's not a business, it's a hobby.
That's what I would want, if I'm honest. I would want a business that felt like a hobby. Because I'd want that passion and I'd want that and to enjoy it. So I'd have to, that's where I think it just wasn't for me.
Yeah, I understand. I love what I do, but I never forget that it's a business and I got to work at it. I got to get up every morning and I'm, starting all over again and get new customers through the door every day. And I got to serve the ones I have so they're happy and they stick around and they bring more people to the table every day.
I have to admit, one of the things that I have had as a goal for quite some time is to figure out how to bridge the gap for those areas of interest that on the surface don't have a way to generate an income. It's a passion, but like you said, there aren't a line of paying customers ready to come in, and it's a tough challenge. And I'm not even sure it's a realistic one. I'm actually working on a project right now that I think might help with that to some degree, because I've identified that people who run Facebook groups they do it voluntarily. Facebook doesn't pay them anything. Facebook actually abuses them, in my opinion. And it occurs to me, well, why aren't they providing a way to, say, sell some advertising and share some of the revenue with the admins? And Facebook is just kind of turning their nose up at that. So I'm working on a solution to try to make that happen. But that's the way I like to think. How can I help somebody create a new kind of business that didn't exist before, that enables people to pursue their passions and not worry about the fact that up until that point, there was no way to make money doing it?
Well, that's a great vision. And if you can find a way to do that for certain groups of people, more power to you. I just think that people in 2023 are, like I said, we live in a soft age and people are just expecting everything to be easy and simple. And, I want my passions. I want to eat 2 pounds of ice cream a day and have a 6-pack. Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
You can. You just have to be ready for the fact you're going to put 50, 75 pounds on pretty quick. But yeah.
No, but I'm saying you cannot eat 2 pounds of ice cream a day and have a 6-pack. You're not going to do that. You're either going to eat 2 pounds of ice cream a day or you're going to have a 6-pack. You're not going to do both. And some people could have a hobby that they can find a way to monetize, and more power to them. But most people aren't going to do that. Let's just be honest. Look, I collect knives. I love my knives. I am not trying to make money from my knife collection hobby. Because as much as I love my knives, I'm not in the business of buying and selling knives. I'm not going to do that. It's not something I do. Do I like talking about knives? Absolutely. There's a ton of knife channels out there. Could I create a knife channel? I could. Don't know that I want to. Don't know that I want to come and show all my knives to everybody and say, hey, this is a good knife. This is why. There's a gazillion men and women that are doing that already. For me, that's not why I got into knives, to like make videos about them. I got into knives because I like holding them. I like fidgeting with them. I like cutting stuff with them. And, I go and I do outdoorsy stuff and I use them. That's why I got knives. And I like looking at them. I like picking them up, holding them in my hand, staring at them, moving them around. That makes me happy. There's no way to monetize that. There is a way to monetize knives and knife collecting and knife, selling, buying and selling knives and doing videos. I got zero interest in doing that. Zero interest.
Is just out of curiosity, is that because you don't really want to cross business with the knife hobby, or is it just because there's no monetary value in it?
There's no monetary value to this. The things I like about knives are not financially lucrative.
Okay.
It's just not. Right? Me looking at a knife, me going like this, wow, that's nice. That's cool. No one's going to pay me to do that. But I love doing it. I love doing it. I love grabbing a piece of paper and just cutting it. I love getting together with a group of friends, hoisting up a lamb on a spit, roasting it, taking one of my hunting knives and slicing off cooked pieces of lamb off of it and eating it. I did that in October. It was a ton of fun. Really enjoyed it. I don't know if there's a way to make money from that unless I charge everybody to come and eat a piece of that lamb. But that's not business. Give me a break.
Not really what you had in mind, yeah. So, all right, let's take it to the next step then. Somebody let's assume somebody is tuned in who has thought about, they want to do business. You've kind of convinced them that, all right, I'm not going to try to do it based on what my greatest passions are. So how do I go about picking a business? How do I pick something that is going to be lucrative that I want to have some satisfaction out of doing it?
So look, I am very passionate about speaking and writing and creating programs and delivering value to people. Right. And I make money from something I'm pretty passionate about. But I pick something that has a financial benefit to it for me to get involved in. So that's what I recommend people do. Don't just be, I want to do X without checking to see if X has any way to pay you. Right? Because you need to differentiate between hobbies and business activities. Right? It's very important to do that. So I'm not going to tell somebody, hey, just go listen to something or start a business that you have zero interest or passion in. No, I don't think that's a good idea either. But you need to look at a business that is a business. That is important. So that's the first thing I want to tell somebody. So let's say you want to be a coach. A lot of people want to be coaches these days. Coaching has, a powerful business component to it. Billions of dollars a year are spent on coaching. So if someone wants to be a coach, then first thing they got to do is they got to figure out what kind of coach they want to be, who they want to help. And I think we were talking about this with the 2 stories that I shared with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
These folks had to figure out who they wanted to help and who needed their help. That's first and foremost what's important. You start to do that, boom.
So we've identified 2 factors then. The first factor is that there has to be a financial viability to it. The second one, which is probably the more important one, is where you take the onus off of the money side of it and putting it onto what we were talking about before, the people side. In other words, in what way is this going to help people? In what way, what problem is it going to solve for them? What services are going to provide to them?
Exactly. And you've got to have a good message that resonates with people and helps them become successful. That's what's important. Now, there's 4 qualities that you need to have if you're going to be successful in business. Quality number 1 is you've got to be decisive. You've got to be decisive. You can't be one of these dabblers. Oh, I'm going to give it a try. Let me kick a tire. No, you're in it or you're out of it.
It's a good
Quality
point.
number 2 is you got to be committed to victory. Not, I'm going to try this for 3 months, 6 months, a year. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, I quit. No, I'm in it to win it. You got to be willing to suck before you're bad, before you're mediocre, before you're average, before you're decent, before you're good, before you're great, before you're iconic, before you're the best the world has ever seen. You got to be willing that.
That's an important progression you just described there. because it's easy to skip the idea that you start off with suck. It's easy to kind of just skip past that entirely, but more often than not, that's where we're starting, isn't it?
It is exactly where we're starting, right? And once that's done, okay, the next thing that you got to do, the next thing that is absolutely got to happen is that you've got to be coachable. You need a coach, a guide, a mentor. Robin Sharma, who was a client of mine, the author of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, sold 20 million copies, said that if you ever want to double your income in a given year, triple your investment in personal and professional development. Triple your investment in personal and professional development. That means you got to hire the coaches, join the masterminds, attend the conferences, buy the courses, and read the books. If you're not willing to do that, you're done. And too many people are like, I can do this myself. And this is especially something that very successful people fall into. So when people are making between $500,000 and $2 million a year, I call that the danger zone, because that's when they start to buy their own BS. They start to think they're special. They start to think, oh, I got it figured out. Look at me. I'm making so much money. I don't need any help. They lose the humility. The danger zone isn't when someone's broke, because they've got a lot of passion. They got a lot of humility. They're ready to work and they're ready to do what they need to do to succeed. When they succeed, they're like, oh, I just read a book called Farther Than Any Man, The Rise and Fall of Captain James Cook, the great English explorer. And when he got started as an explorer, he was a very humble man. And using that humility, he managed to build relationships with some important people that got him in charge of some major expeditions that went around the world. And he was able to discover more than any other man had before. That's why the name of the book is Farther Than Any Man. But by his third major voyage, he'd seen the press clippings and he bought them. And he traveled to the South Pacific, and he made some really bad decisions, including going into a tribe of native people, which were hundreds, a couple thousand strong, with just 10 men. And he insulted the chief, and some of the people in the tribe were deeply offended, and they killed him. They killed him on the spot. They killed a bunch of other men that were there too. Just a few of them got away, but they, speared and sabred him to death. Then they cut him to pieces, cooked him, and ate him. And this is one of the world's greatest ever explorers. How'd this happen? Hubris. And when people make between $500,000 and $2 million a year, I don't need a coach. I'm good. I got it all figured out. And that's when God brings them to their knees. And then finally, you need to be resourceful. You need to come up with the money, the time, and the energy to become successful. And Tony Robbins used to say, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how many resources you have. What matters is how bad do you want change? How much longer are you willing to put up with the crappy situation that you're dealing with in your life or your business? And if you are not willing to put up with it any longer, you got to get resourceful, come up with the time, the energy, and the money, and make it happen. That encompasses the 4 qualities of success for anybody in business.
I really like that. I like that for a number of reasons, not the least of which is your 4 reasons basically skip a lot of the fluff that is presented by many people. I've had many people here on the show who are very successful themselves and successful in helping other people and so forth. But there's always a little bit of a fluffy side to a lot of the stuff that people talk about. You cut right down to it and say, look, you got to do these things. Each of these things that I outlined here, you got to do every single one of them. You got to be willing to do them. You got to go after them. You don't hear people say that. That's not a message that comes through very often. So I like that a lot.
Like I said, we're living in soft times. There's a poem that's very famous, and it goes something like this. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. and then the cycle
Yeah.
begins.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah, that's very
Right.
good. So give us another story. I love the stories that you're telling. Unless do you have something, Anne-Marie? Go ahead.
No, I was just loving the fact that, yes, you're straight to the point, which is fantastic. But I also love that you're obviously changing the mindset of your clients so that they can believe in themselves and they can believe in what they're doing and they can believe in their value. And I'm really interested in that side of things. Is how do you go about doing that?
Well, really, it's in all the things that I've been talking about today.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Focus on others. Don't focus on yourself. Focus on the person in front of you. Don't focus on what you need out of a transaction. Focus on serving that human being. You do that, life is going to move in a brilliant and beautiful direction. And you've got to invest in yourself, as we were talking about a moment before.
Yeah.
There was a woman who came to us many years ago, back in 2016, 2017. She was a wonderful woman. And at the time, she was in her mid to late 50s, really good at what she did. But she was not getting any traction. She was making maybe on a good month, $2,000 a month. And as a result of that, something happened. And here's what ended up happening. She went out there and sought out gurus, and she paid them, these charlatans, $125,000 for zero return on investment.
Wow.
Zero. She came to us, and we could see that she was doing all these things wrong. Mainly, I told her, stop following these idiots. That's the first thing you have to do. Secondly, let's narrow your niche, your focus, and let's have you in front of some people, and let's have you actually asking people that you can help for the business. So anyways, long story short is her business exploded. She went from less than $2,000 a month to $20,000 a month. There was a year-over-year comparison. January 2016, she made $532. January 2017, she made $52,000. That was 100x.
Wow.
She showed it to me on Infusionsoft. She just went, wow. And I'm like, girl, you followed the coaching and you got the results. And you stopped dealing with these charlatan marketers. You got to beware the charlatan marketer. They're going to come and they're going to sell you a bill of goods, and they're good at it. But all they're selling you is sizzle. You're biting into sizzle. There's no steak there. There's no juicy, medium rare ribeye strip loin steak you're biting into. You're just biting into sizzle, and sizzle just burns your mouth.
It does raise the interesting point, though, a very critical point. How do you tell the difference? I mean, if you're not a savvy business person, you haven't been there before, how do you tell the difference between the charlatan and the guy who really has the goods?
Now that, my friend, is a brilliant question.
Thank you.
So, number one is I'd go do some due diligence and research. I'd find out who's actually worked with them. And I'd find out if the testimonials they have are actually real, with real people. Buyer beware, caveat emptor. And one really great way to know who to work with is find people who've worked with them. Or at least find people that you know about who've worked with them. Go have a straight conversation. Tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly of working with this fella or with this gal, right? And they'll tell you. They will. Trust me. I do this all the time. If someone is considering working with me and they're like, I need to know who you are because, you sound great, but like, all right.
Right.
I go, look, here's a couple podcast episodes with people that I've worked with on my show. Have a listen. They have a listen. If they're serious, they'll listen. If they're not, they won't. If they're not serious,
Sure.
I dump them. If they're serious, they have a listen. I go, okay, do you want to talk to them? They go, yeah, I'd like to talk to them. All right. I reach out to them and I go, hey, would you do me a favor? Would you be willing to talk to so-and-so? They always say yes. So I connect them with each other and they ask the questions. And I give them people who are going to say, obviously good things about me, but they're going to tell them the truth. They're going to tell them what's good, bad, and ugly as far as they're concerned about working with me. And almost everyone who works with me says, I got a big heart. I care even more than my clients do about their own success. I know what I'm talking about. I get people a methodology that actually works, and I lock arms with them and I push them until they get a result. That also tell people he's pushy, he's demanding, he's not going to put up with your crap. And if you're somebody who gets offended easily, this ain't the right guy for you to work with. And that's a fact. And yes, I came on a show and I just told everybody listening that if you're easily offended, I'm not the right guy for you to work with. And if you're going, wow, would he say that? Yeah, I'll say that. I don't work with snowflakes. I don't work with snowflakes. Not interested. And they're not interested in working with me either, but I'm not interested. I want to work with somebody who's willing to be pushed. In fact, demands to be pushed.
I think that's really important. Everybody's going to have a different set of criteria in terms of how they're going to select who they want to work with. But for me, anybody that I want to work with somebody who's going to give it to me straight. Because if they aren't giving it to you straight, they're basically spending a lot of time getting you perhaps to where you want to go, or maybe not even getting you there at all. If you're getting it straight, it may not be comfortable, but at least you know what you got to do. At least you have a clear idea of what your next step is. If you don't have that clarity on the next step, how do you take it? How do you take that next step? How do you go in the next direction you need to go into? You can't, because you don't know where you're going. That's what the whole point of having a coach is. So I love that a lot.
I'm glad.
Yeah. I don't know. That's me, but I just don't see how you can get good results if you're not getting that direct, honest answer. If you're easily offended by what somebody is telling you when you've asked them for help, that's a good time to look inside and say, why am I so easily offended?
I think everybody should do that.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're living in a soft age and people are too easily offended. And in universities, there's something called safe spaces. Like the very concept, I got to tell you, is laughable to me. Safe space. You're going to university to be challenged and to be pushed, to expand your mind and expand your thinking. And now these people need safe spaces from ideas that they find offensive. There's no offensive ideas in university. There's just ideas that, you're going to check out and you're either going to like them. And if you like them, great. Or if you don't, you're going to discard them. That's the whole point of having a university, a place where free discussion takes place. But universities have become these Marxist little citadels these days. It's disgusting.
I think that's why I value perspectives so much. It's one of the reasons I like doing this podcast, because I get so many different perspectives from so many guests and co-hosts and so forth. And I don't always agree with them. I don't always share the values and so forth. But even the ones I disagree with, I learn from. And I'm not afraid to talk to somebody who I disagree with because of that. So in that way, I'm on board completely with what you're saying, because why would you want to save yourself from a viewpoint that you don't like? That's the way I look at it. Why would you want to? It doesn't make any sense to me. So,
Amen, brother. Amen.
Totally like that. Now, tell us a little bit about the coaching program that you have, because clearly there are going to be some people who are going to say, "Oh, all right, yep, this is somebody I need to check out with. What's this guy about?" So, how do they find out more about the program and what's involved in it?
Look, if someone wants to check me out, that's easy to do. Just go enter my name in Google, Nicky Billou. You can go onto Spotify and iTunes and enter Nicky Billou. My own shows show up. The 200 plus podcast episodes I've been on show up. So you're in a good place if that's what you want to do. That's free. It's simple. It's easy to do. If you're a book reader, go to Amazon. I've written a bunch of books. You can read the books. Those are good. But if you're a serious individual if you're decisive, if you're committed, if you're coachable, if you're resourceful, then don't do that. Then instead go to my website, ecircleacademy.com/appointment, and apply to be on a call with me, to be on a success coaching call. Okay. And let's have a real conversation about, no kidding, what it's going to take to make 2023 the best year you've ever had. That's how you find out about my coaching program. Because honestly, let's be honest, finding out about someone's coaching program is like you finding out about a doctor's brain surgery technique. I mean,
interesting analogy. Yes.
No offense, but you don't know shit about brain surgery, so shut up. You don't need to know anything about my brain surgery technique. You just need to know that I'm a brain surgeon and I'm good at it. Right? I'm not here to debate minor points in brain surgery with you. Okay. And if someone's coming to me and they're going, well, I need to know how you coach before I decide, I'm like, I already decided I'm not working with you if that's your attitude. I'm the doctor, you're the patient. Shut up. Let me fix your problem.
I love it.
Go away and go to some softie and let them stroke your hair and say how brave and wonderful you are and stay stuck and stay broken. But that's the truth. I'm a lovely human being. I care about people very deeply. I care about them so much. I tell them the truth and I don't bullshit them.
There's no doubt in my mind about that. If BS ever came out of your mouth, I think I'd probably fall over in a dead faint because it wouldn't match the personality that I'm interviewing today. Right, Amory? Am I wrong about that? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But how refreshing is that? Because you know what, if you were to work with you, you would get results. You would get what you want from it. Makes perfect sense.
No doubt at all whatsoever. So, okay. So we'll make sure we'll include a link in the show notes. One of the things that I want to tell you, Nicky, I mean, Amory, this is really, really true today. But I want to tell you this, Nicky, because this is a practice I've made now for almost a year now here on the show. Because everybody comes onto the show one way or another, whether they're a softie or a guy like yourself, either way, they're all trying to help other people. And I think everybody deserves credit who's trying to help somebody else. You are actually helping people. So that's why I'm thinking this is really appropriate for you. But there are many people who've heard you on podcasts or maybe they've actually read your books or something like that. They've learned something from you and you've never met them and you'll never meet them. You'll never see them, but you help them anyway. And I think people, especially like you, deserve credit for that. So on behalf of those people you've never met, you've never seen, who you have helped so far and who you will continue to help, thank you for what you've been doing and what you continue to do, because you're providing real service in the world.
I appreciate that. Sure. Thank you very much. Very kind of you.
I really do believe that. I think it's very important. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story, your stories, very cool stories. I like them a lot. Amory, do you have anything before we close off for the day?
Nicky, did you mention you had a workshop coming up?
Oh, that's right. We forgot about the workshop. Tell us about that.
So 4 times a year, we run a workshop called the Branded Thought Leader Immersion Workshop. And it's a 3-day workshop where we help you make a decade's worth of progress in your business in just a couple of days. And what we do is we take a deep dive into your favorite subject, you, and how who you are and what you've experienced can be turned into monetizable IP. Now, you may already have IP that you're monetizing, but maybe you're not monetizing at the level you want to be monetizing it at or should be monetizing it at. So what we do with our programs is we show you how you can take that and you can be seen as the go-to expert in your space. And that's how you add a 0 or 2 zeros to your annual income while working 10 to 20 hours less a week. And for me, that is important. I see a world where there's 1 billion millionaires. Right now, there are 44 million millionaires in the world, but I see a world of 1 billion millionaires, such a strong constituency for freedom and free enterprise. And to make that happen, we need people who are smart about how they present themselves out there in the world and how they're seen. So if you know this is an itch that you need to scratch, that you're stuck, or maybe you're not stuck, but you're certainly not progressing to the levels you should be progressing to, and it's bothering you, it's making you feel a little bit upset, with yourself. Maybe you're thinking you have a bit of imposter syndrome. It's making you feel like you're stressed out. Maybe you're even getting into fights with your family members, your spouse over it. Maybe even your health is suffering over it. If these things are there and you're kind of done with them, you want to just turn all that around, and you want to be living large. You want to be bringing in enough money that you feel that you're not an imposter, but you feel you're living life as the best version of yourself. You're not fighting with your spouse. Instead, you're like, loving on each other, and your stress levels are down and your health is great. If that's what you want, then we ought to talk and see if this workshop makes sense for you.
When is the workshop? Give us the dates.
April 19th through 21st. And you go to eCircleAcademy.com. You can, see the date and the location. But if you want to find out if it makes sense for you, the best thing to do is jump on that phone call with me. Let's have a conversation.
So even the phone call is also an option for getting into the workshop. They kind of work serendipitously with you. That's not the word. Synchronously. That's what I was looking for.
Synchronously, yes. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. That's good. All right. Anything more, Anne-Marie, before we sign off?
No, that was great. Thank you, Nicky. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank
we
you,
really appreciate
Anne-Marie.
being on the
program. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, really good. Thank you guys much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.